Okay, we're live.
Good.
And you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, my name is Thomas. I live in Germany, and I think our interest is we met discussing whether Paul is a false apostle or not. That's how we met, but I think the theme shifted a little bit, and since we just discovered that the spiritual gifts theme is a bit maybe also or even more important than Paul.
Right.
A positive thing and more constructive, I think, from my perspective, more interesting to me as a believer.
Okay.
So I think we can just maybe continue our discussion that we started in the comment section about your video, and maybe dive a little bit deeper into that.
Sure. What revelations have you been getting? I know.
Well, I think quite a bit from my point of view, but we have to sort things out a little bit to get it right in the right context. So my idea is the main idea. Spiritual gifts is from if I look at it from the book of Revelation, the letters to the churches. So my idea is that the churches in Revelation, they are each of them has a certain spiritual gift, and that means that Ephesus has the spiritual gift of wisdom, Smyrna of insight, and so on. 7 of them, and they are defined in the book of Isaiah, chapter 11.
You said, I'm sorry, chapter what?
Chapter 11.
11.
Verse 2 and 3, just at the beginning.
Oh, okay.
Actually, this is nothing new, but it's just assigned to the Messiah prophecy, and and so early on, for example, in the Catholic Church, it's till at the present time known that these 7 spiritual gifts are also relevant to the believers. I mean,
right.
If you're baptized, then you will get one or more of those gifts, and they will be part of your life as a believer. In Protestant churches, it's not that much, since they are more towards Paul and the spiritual gifts that he.
Right. And you know what? I used to not know the difference, but now, like, I kind of try to wash my brain of what he taught. So what you said there's seven spiritual gifts?
Yes, that's the tradition, and it's also 7 gifts in the Septuagint, in the Old Greek text of this Isaiah document. Actually,
that's in Isaiah 11.
Yeah, but maybe in your Bible translation, the current one, you see only 6 of them, because they are translated from the Hebrew text, from the Masoretic text.
Right.
It contains only 6 of them. But I think it should be 7. 7.
Okay.
The text is the right one.
I see the wisdom and understanding. Is that 1 or 2?
That's 2.
2. Okay. You want to go over them, or?
I think that would be a little bit too much as an introduction.
Okay.
But well, I mean, if someone is more interested, he can find Googling a little bit on spiritual gifts. But maybe we can get into more deeper into one of them later on in the discussion, maybe for Ephesus or something as a starting point.
Do you have One or many of the gifts, or
Well, me personally, I think that every believer has only one gift.
only one?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
because I think everyone is just a member of one church. It's either Ephesus or Smyrna or something, and over there it is described the challenges that someone faces then who has that gift.
What about the part where Yahshua was saying, like, if you're, well, I guess those were talents, but he was like, he gives people, and then if they're faithful with it, he gives them even more. You don't think that's included with the gifts, or?
Joshua, what do you mean?
You know, the parable of the talents, like he said, so he went and he gave like each person, I guess it's translated different Bibles, but what I remember is the talent. And then the ones that were faithful with it, he give them more. And then the one that wasn't, he like even took away what he had. Because one, I think, buried it or something. I don't know.
Okay. Well, no, I'm not sure about that. I think it's just something that is done during the process of baptizing a person.
Baptizing them?
That's my understanding of it. That's why you can get a spiritual gift.
Do you go to do you go to church now?
Well, me personally, no. At the moment, I'm not a member of any.
Yeah, I was going to several.
I was baptized as a little baby, and
So you just study on your own?
well, that's I was raised by my grandparents when I was little. They were believers in Jesus, and they gave me a very simple but I think pure kind of Christianity, that they read the Bible a little bit and with me, and so I got some basics from that.
Right.
Later on, when I grew up, I went to the public school system, and then that was quite kind of damaging to my beliefs. So I lost it in the meantime, but then I rediscovered it on my own when I was grown up, and wanted to research that thing on my own and start from the beginning again. And so that's where I formed my beliefs, just as a little bit of kind of a researcher on my own, outside of the church system.
Right, because I mean, really, I guess we are the church, you know. That's how I used to like totally deny that, but now I can't find a church right now that actually speaks the truth. So, like, I can go to one, and I do, but it seems like the pastors seem to be kind of blinded, so it's kind of frustrating. But yeah, I think we should definitely be going by the word of God and what he called a gifts, you know. And
yeah, the problem I had when I started this rediscovering process, I started with the Gospel of John.
Gospel of John.
Gospel of John. That's how I understand Christianity as the basic, because I think this is the guy who really met Jesus and was
right.
So I had, from my academic background, that's the person who knows what's going on, you know, and not just
he verified John. Because I know there was two different Johns, but one was John the Baptist, and then his disciple, right? So I always think about when he was like, the law and the prophets were until John. So I kind of like, which John?
I mean, the Apostle John and his gospel.
So was he a prophet too, or I don't know? He could have been talking about John the Baptist. I trust both of them because I know regardless, like the apostle was the beloved. And that's who I believe wrote Revelations. I'm not 100% sure. But.
Well, I think the Apostle Paul, that's one of the 12 disciples who walked around with Jesus there 3.5 years. And
I'm sorry, he what?
That's one of the 12 disciples of Jesus who walked, who got taught by him personally. And so I think that's
Paul?
John. No, John and
John. Oh, okay, one of the real ones.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, no, Paul didn't meet him. He met somebody. I think he met somebody. I assume because Yahshua did say many false Christs would come and deceive many. So I do believe he met somebody, but I'm still skeptical of that too. I don't know.
But I mean, the way Christianity is explained in the Gospel of John, I mean, I try to figure out how that works, and you know,
that's the one you trust, John.
Yeah, that's how I understand Christianity and the basics of it. And but they don't, when I try to connect to this church system, there it just didn't fit because they are not teaching
the same thing.
The Gospel of John, they are just mainly teaching the teachings of Paul, you know.
Yeah, that's like the church is based on Paul. I'm like, shouldn't Yahshua come first? Maybe what he said might count for something, but yeah, for sure.
So that's the background, and well.
What translation do you prefer?
Well, actually, I've made my own translation of this text. I was.
So you don't trust any of them?
No, it's not that I don't trust them, but it's just my academical background, I think.
So you go to like the interlinear and study the Greek and Hebrew and Arabic, like that's. You said you actually make your own. I
thought me the Greek text of the New Testament and studied that. Learned how to read this ancient Greek.
Oh, you can read it?
Yes, I read it in Greek. I mean,
that's cool.
So then later on I try to translate it then for just personally for myself, you know.
So have you translated like the whole thing?
Yeah, I've even put it on the website, but it's in German too.
I want to see. So you translate it in English or in German?
To German.
Oh, shucks.
Actually, it's two columns. One is Greek and the other one German. But
okay.
But so I think when I did this reading the Gospel in Greek, I noticed that it's not that much about finding the right translation. I mean, concerning individual words, but the problem is that the Gospel of John has a certain structure of the text. I mean, sections and subsections. And this just reflects the internal structure of that whole thing. And if you don't have that, then you don't understand it correctly, because I think the theme of that is the 10 Commandments. And so in the first section is about the first commandment, and then the second section about the second commandment. And if you don't have that context, then you just don't understand how this text works, you know. If you read just verse by verse or something if you know.
I'm sorry, if you did.
If you just read a single verse and make a
assumption on one verse, you mean?
Verse, yes. Then.
Which most people do now. Just open their Bible and read one thing.
Yeah.
So, from you like translating it yourself, have you noticed any major changes or any contradictions?
Well, yes. I mean that too, because in Greek is a kind of an abstract language, and for example, the word that's famous, logos. I mean,
Say what statement you said?
The Greek logos. That's
What is that?
translated as word. You know, in the beginning was the word. I mean, this famous beginning of the Gospel of John. You know, but if you look at the Greek text, I mean, you'll notice that logos can mean a lot of different things.
What does it mean?
Well, it can mean.
What verse is that? Because I don't even know.
Don't know. But I think the first verse of
John.
Of John, the first verse of.
Where he's saying like the word was with us and that part.
Yes.
So okay, so in the Greek, what does it mean? Different, like.
Well, it can mean word, but it can also mean a lot of different things, like thought or commandment, too.
Commandment.
Yes, commandment.
I think somebody told me that. Somebody also told me something about walking. That might have been something different.
Yeah, but I think it's more about commandments there. It should be translated.
Right. Like his instruction, his word.
Yeah.
That's how I always see, like, there's many words in the Bible, but the word is different than just, that's what came out his mouth, his instructions. Like, that's the truth.
Yeah, it's not just a simple word. It's always some kind of commandment if God speaks,
Right, his instruction.
Not a normal word. It's just if he speaks, then it's a commandment and something happens,
Right.
It has some effect, not just an.
Yeah, because he literally created everything with his word.
And so, well, it's also the Decalogue. I think maybe you heard that. That's the abbreviation of the 10 Commandments.
What's that again? Say it again.
The Decalogue. The 10 commandments. Deca is 10, and logos is. So that's also a hint that the logos is in a biblical context should be understood as commandment.
So the actual word literally means commandment.
Yeah, it's not just a word; it's a commandment. That's the. When the Gospel of John says
his word. So if you're keeping his word, that literally means you're keeping his commandment.
Right, the commandment.
That makes sense. So it's kind of like another meaning to word in Greek.
Yeah, and I think it also makes more sense from in the Gospel of John, because over there it says later on, and the word became flesh.
Right.
Among us. And so that's Jesus Christ is meant by that. But if you understand this logos as the 10 Commandments, then it's more like the 10 Commandments became alive. They and dwelt as something as a human being among us.
Right.
And so that's why he was able to fulfill these commandments too. I mean, because he was basically the commandments himself. And that's why he's sinless, and he was not just it was something divine, It was not just only human. I mean, it was in human form, of course, but it was also spiritually something divine. That's how I understand it.
Yeah, for sure.
And so this develops, I mean, in the Gospel of John, because the first section is about the first commandments, and the second section with Nicodemus and so on is about the second commandment, about idolatry and so on. And if you've got that context, then I think you understand the text much better. And so that's why I don't look into these Bible translations anymore. I don't use them. I just used it my own text.
I mean, if you know how to read Greek, why would you? Like, yeah, I wish I knew. Yeah, because I literally have to go and look up every word, and I've seen a lot of like John 3:36. I think they totally took out like being obedient to God and just put to believe and then believe again. And most of the translations, not all of them, but yeah, I've seen that a kind of a twisting or hiding things through translations, I guess, that didn't fit their agenda.
I don't know. I don't think it's an agenda or something that they are doing, that they are evil or something, that they want to hide something. It's just it's the tradition. I mean, from somehow this knowledge, I think, that the apostles had about this text, and when they wrote it, I think it somehow got lost in the centuries. And
like how we speak like our words change, what the meanings, you mean? Or,
yeah, just the understanding of the text. I mean, even in the Middle Ages, the people they had a more rational approach to it. They tried to use Greek philosophy and thinking about the text, but they didn't have I think the spiritual background of this text anymore. But what was so amazing for me is that it's possible to rediscover, I mean, this old apostolic original context out of it. If you just get rid of the old formal of the new formal structure of chapter and verse numbering that's in the modern Bibles, if you just ignore that and read
you said the actual numbering.
Yeah, if you just ignore that and read the text as if you would read it just a normal textbook, I mean, without any verse number or chapter number, then, and you try to make sense out of it, then you will discover this hidden structure there in this text. And I mean, that's at least how I process that. And I mean, I didn't recognize that from one day to the other. I had to read it over and over again, but somehow I was just so fascinated by that thing, reading this Greek text, and so this knowledge developed over maybe a few years or so. That the whole gospel is organized in this way. So I think that's the main thing that I contribute maybe to this, if it's true, what I found, that I can contribute to this whole discussion there. It's not just if one or more or two individual words are translated incorrectly or something like that, but it's the whole overview thing, how the gospel itself is.
Like the original, what it was originally said.
Yeah. And so this was basically the starting point I mean, I was pretty sure that this Gospel of John had some other hidden structure in it, and so I also tried to find this in the book of Revelation. And to my surprise, there was also some kind of structure, hidden structure in there. But it's not about the 10 Commandments there, but it's just a seventh structure. I mean, chapter 1 to 7, as I see it, and not these 10 chapters as in the Gospel of John, as with the 10 Commandments. But Revelation has something that is more connected to the spiritual gifts. This number 7 of the spiritual gifts there.
So what do you take from Revelation, like?
Well, the way I understand it right now is that it's more or less some kind of divine engagement, a description of a divine engagement between two beings, Christ and Jesus Christ, and which will ultimately lead to this divine marriage. Then at the end, when all this is resolved, all the problems. And
do you think that's going to be soon?
Well, yes, I believe that it will happen eventually, but although it doesn't look like that at the moment. If you look at all this, I mean, people are not even aware that there's something like spiritual gifts, and they are just maybe, if they talk about marriage or something, if two people fit together, they don't look at spiritual things, but they are maybe thinking about psychological things, like on those psychological websites. I mean, if you two personality types fit together based on if someone is a feeler or thinker or intuitive or something like that, or sensor. This MBTI thing, I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Say it again. The what?
MBTI.
No, what is that?
Well, that's a kind of psychological model based on the work of C.G. Jung. This guy, maybe that's quite famous.
So, like,
the Swiss guy.
He's trying to break down the mind or something?
Well, he tried to help people as a psychiatrist, and so he made some kind of a phenomenological model of how the mind works, about the cognitive functions. That you have a feeling function and a thinking function, and the sensing function, your five senses, the way how seeing and hearing and stuff like that, and also an intuitive part. I mean that you know things just out of nothing. I mean, and you don't know how you came to that knowledge.
So you don't agree with him?
Oh, I do, but I think that's just at the level of the soul, you know. And so nowadays, I mean, in our materialistic world, I mean, this is just how people look at the human being. Just on the one hand is the body, the material thing, and then there's something like the soul or cognitive functions or something like that. But beyond that, the Christian theme of spiritual things, that's neglected. It doesn't play a role.
I think the Father like gives his children extra senses, like, I don't know. But he does, Yahshua does say that if you really believe his word, the gifts he did, you'll be able to do those plus, you know, even, I guess, better or more or something. I don't know. Do you know what part I'm talking about?
Actually, not really at the moment. I think I lost you there.
Yeah, I always think about that because, like, he was healing people and doing all kind of stuff. So I wonder, like, how it talks about in the last days, he's going to pour out his spirit on, you know, all flesh. I'm assuming his children, and they'll prophesy, and I don't know what else. But I'm wondering if he's going to give them like certain gifts that's going to be able to, I guess, protect us from these fallen angels and things.
No, I think we have that right now. But the difference is that Jesus, he had all 7 spiritual gifts combined in his personality,
right?
And so, but I think that's huge. I mean, I don't think any living person can handle this, because if you look back at the Old Testament, for example, King Solomon also, he received the gift of wisdom, and Daniel received the gift of spiritual gift of insight or understanding, and this was quite intense for these people. I mean, just this one gift, right? Daniel, his life, he was always between life and death, because he was he was thrown in the lion's den and stuff like that, and attacked by all kinds of things. And I think this is all connected with his gift of insight. And so if you've got one of those spiritual gifts, then you will have also, I mean, on the one hand, if you try if you know how to use them, you will have a lot of maybe power or abilities associated with gifts. but you will also be attacked a lot.
Yeah. Anyone, I guess, that is doing the will of God will definitely be attacked.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
and you will have a lot of problems even with one gift, and
Mhm.
don't imagine how it will be if you would have all 7 of them combined. So I think only Jesus Christ was able to handle that.
So what are the other gifts?
Well, it's wisdom, then insight. Insight, that means that you understand God's plans.
Okay, so that means you understand his plans like beforehand, maybe?
No, maybe I think it's maybe twofold. If you've got, you can understand the Bible better, maybe. The plans of God that are laid down, explained there in the Bible. But it can also be that you get revelations. I mean, prophetic insights or something like that. Know something beforehand, or get some revelations directly from God. That's how I understand that.
Do you have that?
No, I don't have. I think maybe not prophetic insights, but I think I think I've got that gift, yeah. But it helps me to understand the Bible better. I think that's how I use it.
Right. So there's wisdom, insight, or understanding, however you want to say it, and what else?
Well, the third one is counsel.
Is counsel?
Yeah.
What is that?
It's well, it's if you know what you should do. I mean, if there's some kind of trouble.
So you know, like what to do beforehand.
You know what you should do to avoid that, or if you're attacked in a war or something like that, then how to respond to that.
Okay.
And it
and
can
the
be
fourth?
very useful too. Huh? Well, that can be very useful too. I mean, if you the counsel gift, you know, because everyone is
yeah, especially now. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So counsel is like knowing what God wants you to do.
No, it's not that general. I think it's more, you know, for example, an example is, I think, that story from the Old Testament. That's how I look at it. When the Israelites, when they tried to conquer the land Israel, then there was this prophet Bileam. Maybe you know about that guy. I think he had somehow this gift of counsel, and the heathen people, the Canaanites who lived there beforehand, before the Israelites conquered it, they knew that they couldn't defeat the Israelites because they were just too strong, and so they tried to get to pay this prophet that they should curse the Israelites, and you know, but prophet then he tried to get counsel from God if he is allowed to do that, because then he would get a huge bargain. They would give him a lot of money if he obviously if he could curse the Israelites. But God told him that he should not do that.
Right.
I mean, he had a dream at night, and so he received that counsel from God that he shouldn't do it. But somehow, these Canaanites, they just kept asking me again and try to increase the amount of money that
they were trying to pay for God to do something.
Yes, and so this was maybe too much a temptation for him, and so he decided just to go and curse the Israelites, regardless of what God had, of the counsel of God. He just ignored that, and so that's the way this gift should not be used. You know, if you've got a revelation from God, counsel, and then you ignore it, that will be very bad. That's not just.
He knew better, and he just did it anyway.
Hmm?
You said he knew better, and he did it anyway.
Yeah, because he didn't want to lose the money. He did it for money.
Yeah. So what happened? Where's this at? Because I don't recall this. Do you know?
Well, the story that's in the book of I think it's the book of Numbers.
Numbers. Okay.
Yeah, but I think I've also made it commented on that in one of the texts that I mailed to you, the third one. It's about the gift of counsel, and so I also elaborated about that.
So he had the gift, but then he I don't know. I think when people get a gift and then they go against the word of God, it's kind of like it backfires on them. I don't know. Kind of like Solomon.
Yes, indeed.
Like I feel like he was so smart, but then, the father told him not to go. And first of all, they weren't supposed to have all these wives, but he specifically was like, don't go and get this type of wife. And he did it anyway. So it's like his knowledge just became like foolishness. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. He ended up serving.
Well, it's also tempting. I mean, especially I think the gift of wisdom. I mean, if someone has that, it just makes him very attractive, to
for all the women. I don't know.
This wisdom, I mean, it comes with a lot of. It's not just intelligence; it's also just how to handle life well and
right. He knew how to seduce the women good.
Wealth and all this gold and wealth associated with it, and so I think that's very attractive. Then I mean, and so yeah, and so that's I think the temptation if you've got that gift. I mean, then you're just getting overwhelmed by all this appreciation from the world and from other people that you forget that God should be always the number one priority that you should care about.
Right.
And so that's also the big theme and the letter to the Church of Ephesus. I mean, it's also mentioned there that they had lost their first love.
God, yeah.
Yeah. And so if you've got that, then you're in real big trouble. Then I think that's indeed what also happened to this church. I mean, in history, because I think the Apostle John, he was the head of that church, but at the time of Revelation, he was just imprisoned. I mean, in this island of Patmos, and so he couldn't lead his congregation there anymore. I mean, he taught them that Paul was false. I mean, it's all mentioned there and in the text, and false apostle and everything.
Right. You can literally go find these things. That's why it shocks me that people aren't more aware, or I think maybe they just don't want to know. They want to believe that they don't have to keep God's word.
Yeah.
They want to live in sin, pretty much.
Yeah, but also, I mean, this Church of Ephesus, I mean, they tried really to keep all this bad teaching, false teaching out of their church, but they kept fighting against all this thing, and in the end, they also then lost their focus on God. I mean, if you're just fighting on God against all these evil things, then I mean, maybe that's also a thing that you then also forget about that your love to God for God should be the main part of your life as a believer.
Yeah, and I think money has a lot to do with it. Like,
that too, but at the time of the Revelation, when John was imprisoned there, this island of Patmos, I think they just lost their spiritual leader, their apostle. I mean, and then they lost their first love, and then so that's why, I mean, this whole old church system, Ephesus and Smyrna, then it was all basically destroyed, I think, because of that, because they lost their first love to God. That's how I look at it. Try to make sense out of it, and it was replaced by this what we have today. I mean, this Catholic or stuff like that, based on the teachings of Paul mainly, and
the teachings of man.
Yeah,
what man said we should do.
Banned by John the Apostle. So when he was taken out, John and his church, then the way was free. I mean, there was no resistance to the teachings of Paul there anymore. I think that's how this became the dominant part of Christianity.
Paul?
Today, yeah.
Yeah, me too. Which is sad because, Christians are supposed to be followers of Yahshua Christ, not man. All through the Old Testament, even Yahshua, Jesus said, don't let no man, no one, I think, deceive you. So I don't know. To me, it's every single warning he fits. So it just frustrates me that the world is still following him. Most of the world. Oh, but back to Solomon. I feel like Solomon lost his gift in the end because he had to have. Like, if you're going to bow down to another God, knowing, I think to me, he shows me that the smartest man in the world will still end up being a complete dummy if they disobey God.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got that much appreciation from the people around you, I mean, they will always tell you how great you are, and I mean, I think it's easy then to lose the focus.
And he was probably leaning on his own understanding, thinking he was smart, and Yahweh told me this, but I can maneuver it like this, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Everyone always thinks they can get away with something.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, it makes perfectly sense because if you've got a spiritual gift, then you will have to face a lot of challenges.
You'll be tested more.
Yeah, and so each gift has its own set of challenges that are connected with it. So
that makes sense.
I think the wisdom that's the biggest challenge is to lose the first love to God. But also, I mean, the other spiritual gifts, I think they have other challenges. I mean, and so I think that's maybe a way how to find out what kind of spiritual gift you have. If you see what kind of problems, if you analyze what kind of problems you have in life, in your life, what would you have trouble with? I mean,
then you'll know what kind of gift you have.
Yeah.
Okay. I never thought about it like that, but okay.
Well, that's one way how to look at it. I mean, you can also look at it from a positive side. I mean, if you've got one theme that you feel it's some kind of recurring theme in your life, like for example, you with your Apostle Paul as a false apostle. I mean, this is almost maybe a textbook indicator that to me that you might have that spiritual gift of wisdom, but it's just a initial guess.
What strikes me is that in the Old Testament, Yahweh is saying that he's gonna hide this from the wise and prudent and give it to, I think, the babes, unlearned. So it's probably the opposite. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know. Yes. But I guess there's also a difference between the learned, the wisdom of the world and the wisdom of God. I think that's a big difference. Because most of these people that think they're wise, hate to be corrected, and they're like stuck in their own. They're stuck in their own understanding instead of leaning on God for understanding.
Yes, that's. I think that's more or less the consequence that this whole process that the original version of Christianity has been lost. I mean, in church life, it's just some kind of facade with the teachings of Paul that are quite different from what's originally
From the truth, yeah. It's actually the opposite. And then I don't know, like grace, the actual word grace, from what I understand, I could be wrong, was like an actual, some god's like 3 daughters or something. I don't know. I looked something, some goddesses were named Grace. I actually think that's a mistranslation. I think in the Bible it should always be favor, and favor comes literally from doing the will of God. Like we don't just get these free gifts just because we acknowledge that Jesus died and rose, you're saved. So long as you believe that, you're good. Like, to me, that's just a lie. Because I think believing him and his word is like what you said, like we're actually keeping his word. We're obeying his word. It's not just, and then if somebody really, really believes something, wouldn't they take the instructions from that person? You know what I mean? Because you would trust them. Like if you really trust them, then you would know they're not telling you anything wrong. But the world is kind of backwards.
I think it's a gradual declining process, like in Israel in the Old Testament times. I mean, even at the beginning of it, at the time of David, basically everything was fine. Then Solomon, I mean, at first it looked like things got even better, but then there was this division between Israel and Judah, and because of the problems of Solomon, that he lost his first love, and so this declined gradually till at the end it was so bad that they were just taken out of their land and into captivity by the Assyrians or the Babylonians. And I think that the same thing, I look at it, the same thing happens here with Christianity too.
Because they lost their first love? Or they never had it to begin with?
Well, they did have it at the beginning, but in Christianity, it's not just based on a gift of wisdom, the first love, but it's 7 churches, So it's not just that Ephesus was destroyed, but also the other churches. So this thing was quite profound. This destruction. I mean, it's also on I think on a spiritual level.
So how did you come to the truth? I know you said your parents taught you, but did they teach you that, or did you learn this on your own, like what the true gospel was?
No, that's on my own.
So you learned that on your own?
Yeah, sure. I just read this text, biblical text on my own, and studied them a lot.
And you saw the contradictions?
No, I wasn't looking for contradictions at all. It was just my interest, and I just wanted to understand this text. And so I tried to ignore everything that has been said about that in the past, and just started from the beginning again. As if there were no theologians. As if there were no theologians at all that had written something. So I started from zero knowledge, just had the text in front of me and tried to figure it out, and that's how I came to the conclusions that I found.
Did you ever believe the writings of Paul? Like, did you ever think that was like God's, like, that he was speaking the truth, and Yahshua came to him in the desert? And
well, actually, it didn't play much. It was not that important to me at all because I was so concentrated on the writings of the Apostle John. That's what was my definition of Christianity. And so later on, when I tried to connect to other people in churches, that's when I started to read the Book of Acts and the writings of Paul.
Okay.
And I was always I had some suspicious. I was suspicious that something was wrong, but I couldn't define it at the beginning. And there was a phase when I tried to assimilate a little bit, and say, okay, maybe I'm wrong or something. My intuition is wrong about that, and I try to just to get along with these people, and but it didn't work out, and so
yeah. I tried to make Paul fit what Yasha said, and then I just kept noticing like the people that weren't going by the word of God were constantly quoting Paul, and I was like, oh, what's up with this? So God finally. He showed me. I remember first reading when he reaped the thorn and the messenger of Satan. That I was like, what? Like God's part, like that. Something was wrong right there. And I was young when I read that. Maybe like maybe 14 or 15. I knew there was an issue there. Like I was suspicious, like you say. But it's still, I don't think it manifested yet. That was always like a red flag to me. Like, and then when I pieced it with, that was literally a warning of having bad fruit. Later on, when I really started studying, well, this doesn't match this, and he lines up with this warning and this warning, it came. And then ever since then, it's just like, keep coming. But so do your parents now think the same way as you, or have you even discussed it with them?
No.
Are they here?
Parents. No, my mother, she died, and my father, he's not in Christianity, I think, to my knowledge, that much.
At all? Oh, okay.
That's not in my...
What about your family or your friends? Are they in the same mindset as you, or the same beliefs?
Well, that's a little bit difficult. I mean, to a certain degree, yes. But well, I wouldn't. I'm not relying on that basically, because somehow I feel that this is
doesn't matter.
Yeah, because I just have this connection with God, I think.
And you don't really care what anyone else thinks.
And I'm just putting that out, and I just don't care that much about if people appreciate it or not, to be honest. And if no one reads it, then that's fine. But it will backfire on them.
Right. But you said they're pretty much in the same mindset as you, pretty much.
Who has the same mindset?
Like they believe pretty much the same way you do. Like they believe we should keep the word of Yahshua and the Father and go by his word.
Well, who do you have in mind for that? I mean,
like, so I feel like remember how Yahshua is like, those that continue in my word are really my disciples. I know you read Greek, but I don't know if that stands out to you. And then it said, then you will be set free, like those that continue in his word. It's like, I almost think you have to continue in his word to even know the truth.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So a lot of people, I think, are still lost because not only are they not continuing in his word, they're not even focusing on his word. They're just, I guess, reading it as it's all equal. Like everyone in the Bible is equal. And this, I don't know how many men have told me that it's okay to have a bunch of wives because David did it or Solomon did it, or, people will try to justify what they do by the history in the Bible. Even though these people were punished by God for doing it, they'll still try to justify themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, the sin that you're living with, of course, that's damaging. Yeah, but well,
I think that's
from my part. I mean, I'm more in the how can I say, I'm more in the intellectual person. This intellectual sins that people are committing by just ignoring the teachings, the original teachings, and just ignoring.
right.
What they should believe. This is the even more serious.
Why do you think they ignore it? You think they're just stupid? I mean, I don't know.
No,
I kind of think that sometimes, but I think it's more because of what they want to continue in. Like, you know how it says the light came into the world, but people, they didn't, like, they wanted to remain in darkness. They wanted to keep doing what they were doing.
Yes, and actually, I'm not thinking about that a lot because I don't want to get into this mindset of this people, because I mean, I think it was.
So you're just more so focusing on the gifts and the good stuff.
Yeah, how things should be. I mean,
how it's gonna be.
Yeah, and I mean, this plan that I'm seeing there in this book of Revelation, how things will unfold.
Yeah, it's exciting to me.
But I think somehow it's inevitable that this thing, this old church system that is laid out in the book of Revelation with the 7 spiritual churches, that this somehow will be revived. I mean, in the future, because I think otherwise these events, this divine marriage could not take place, because I mean, it's mandatory that there is some kind of bride that fits with their spiritual gifts to the gifts of Jesus, that things can progress. I think somehow, I mean, this it will just, even though it doesn't look like that, some day in the future, maybe sooner or later, I don't know, it will come back to this old system. I mean, I don't think that I'm the one who's pushing that, but I think maybe someone with more influence or something like that in the future, he will just somehow, I don't know, maybe not by his own wisdom or strength, but with the help of God.
Right.
I think maybe this, if people ignore the truth too much, then the old system will just come crashing down. Maybe, and we're seeing that. I mean, at the beginning, maybe we're at the beginning of that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I think things are being exposed. For sure. I do know that there's more people, like, just because it says that narrow is the way that leads to life and few will find it, and broad and wide, leads to, I don't know, destruction, death. I'm not sure what your translation is. And the majority of people are going to go there. So, and a lot of people I do think will return, a lot of people, I guess, will have to be put through something dramatic, maybe, to return, like fire. I don't know. You know how it says some people are refined in fire. So I used to think that was just the Holy Spirit, but I don't know. I mean, the Father chastises those he loves. So it makes me so mad when I see people. I'm like, why would you want to go through that? You can just learn the easy way. Like, just be obedient. Like, you don't need to be chastised over and over again if you're just obedient. But
maybe, well, I think I'm not that optimistic about that people can be turned around, or they will come to an understanding of that, because I think
you said you are, or you aren't?
I'm not optimistic about that. I think it's by design even, and this is overlooked too. I mean, if you look at Matthew 13, Even Jesus said it when his apostles, when they asked him why he was talking in parables and not teaching them, I mean, in an understandable way. He thought that they were not, they were meant to hear but not understand. And so I think he knew, I mean, he could look into the hearts of people, and so he knew that they were not interested in his teaching.
He already knew.
And so that's why he didn't tell them the truth, but something that's just some kind of fiction or something.
Right. Like, yeah, you had to literally have ears to hear it, and then he would go explain it. Well, too, you know, it says, "Seek and you will find," and that's a big commandment, is to seek the Lord with all your, to love Him, seek Him. I consider it the same, because when you really love somebody, like, you want to know everything about them. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
as long as you seek, He'll, seek and you will find. But many people are not seeking, and maybe they just aren't thirsty enough. I don't know.
Well, it's just that I look at it. It's just as in an engagement process. I mean, maybe that's a bit forgotten in our times when people get married so quick. Yeah. But I mean, this engagement process is a process where people have it just takes some time to find out if you really fit together. I mean,
right,
as a couple, and for a believer, it is some kind of you've got to go through some trouble and some testing. I mean, if you really fit to God, to His standards, and in your daily life. And you just can't. It's just not enough that you just say, "I believe in Jesus," and everything is fine. But you will have to prove it by living according to His standards, and to overcome all these troubles in your life. That you are even that you're really serious about this marriage, and living this divine life in the future. And so I think this just cannot go without that part. But there's still hope, I think. I mean, if Christianity comes back to this kind of understanding, then, and Jesus Christ acknowledges His church, and sees that they are really after His searching for Him and Him and His will, and live according to their spiritual gifts, then, I mean, I think then the next chapter of this revelation of this engagement process will be opened with this chapter 4, then this revelation in heaven, when someone is lifted up, and then this 4 horsemen, they will come, and then that's when tribulation will start.
Right.
So I think that's just unavoidable.
So, so there's wisdom, understanding, counsel, and then what's the fourth one?
Well, that's strength.
Strength?
Yeah.
And what do you take that as, just strength, or?
That's kind of a little bit of the scary part, because it will give you power, I mean, to make miracles. That's how I look at it. And the strength of that Jesus also had, I mean, this is some of the most neglected thing.
So you literally take that as performing like miracles, or?
Well, it is not just about miracles. It's well, maybe we should have a look at my text, but actually that's a little bit too far away from my experience as a believer. So I think I would have to prepare that maybe in another session. We can talk about that in more detail. But
so what's the one after strength?
Strength. That's the kind of knowledge. And it's not in a worldly sense that you are a smart scientist or something like that who discovers a lot of new laws in physics or something like that. But it's how to discover the presence of God in daily life. That's how I see it. And this is, I think, the kind of life that's explained in the first letter of John, where the people.
You think John fits that?
Well, I think he tried to explain it there in his letter how one can recognize God in his daily life. I think maybe that's he wrote this letter with this fifth church in mind, the church of Sardis, and with this gift of knowledge of God. That's how I understand it. But this is also alien to me because I'm just I don't have the spiritual gift, and so I'm just reading there.
Okay, so the knowledge of Yahweh, huh?
Yeah, I mean, if something happens, if something happens in the world, and if it's from God or if it's from the devil, and
okay,
seeing that things that happen and knowing what's behind it. That's how I understand it. And it's also about walking in white clothes. That means walking, living basically a sinless life.
That's a gift, you said?
That's also associated with it.
Oh, okay.
Because you will have, you will need to live a pure life to have to see God. I mean, because sin is always something that keeps you apart from God. If you're living in sin, then you cannot see God.
Right.
So, so this is all connected somehow. You cannot live in sin and try to see God in your daily life.
Right. You can't live in sin and have the knowledge of God either. What else? You said you think there's an extra one?
An extra one?
Well, at the gifts, you said that there's 6, but in some, you said in some translations there's 6, but do you think?
Yeah, there's seven actually.
So what are the other ones?
The sixth one, that's actually piety.
I'm sorry?
Piety.
Piety?
Yeah.
What is that?
Oh, maybe I'm pronouncing it. Well, I'm just having a look at it. Maybe.
I probably just don't know what it is, truthfully.
Well, it's some kind of godliness, so devoutness, religiousness. So that's basically, I think I always look at the King David, what he was doing. I mean, the Jews, they always had, I think they have the sense that King David was a very pious person.
Pious? Like zeal, maybe? Do you know, like zeal? No?
Yeah, it's a zeal for God that's connected with it. That God is part of your daily life, that you always live in the presence of God. And also these church services and something like that,
Like maybe praise would go along with that, or
yes, and praise. I think that's all connected to that. Basically, how the King David lived with all these celebrations and holy feasts, and that he brought
and praise.
He brought the presence of God to earth, and that can be very powerful too.
How do you think you bring the presence of God? Like how do you do that? By praising him?
Well, it's I mean, praising is just an expression of this gift of piety. I think if you've got the piety inside and your praise comes from your heart, from your gift, it's not just something that superficial or something that you're supposed to do or something like that.
Yeah, because it comes from within. That's why you want to do it.
Yeah. And if it's pleasing to God, then this can be very powerful. I mean, because God responds and will protect you and
give you favor.
Yeah, whatever.
Was that the last one or no?
No, that was the sixth one. The last one is the fear of God.
The fear of God.
Yeah, the fear of God.
That one always confuses me because, like, I know we're supposed to fear him and not anyone else. But then I think, I don't know, like there's some parts in the Bible where people didn't want to hear from God because they feared him. And to me, like, that's the opposite of me. I don't know. Like, I fear him. I don't want to disobey him, but like, I want to see him. I want to hear him. I want to talk to him all the time. So,
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, you can talk to them, but I mean, God is just, I think, well, maybe from my spiritual gift of insight, I can say that you cannot just look at God like if you look at another person, because God is something infinite, and if you look at him, this will be at the end of your life, you know.
you said that would be the end of your life?
Yeah, really.
On earth.
Maybe you know that story of Moses at Mount Sinai.
Yeah, he said, "You can't see me because you'll die."
Yeah, and so that's that sort of thing, you know. So, I think if you would look at God's face, then you would not survive that. But he will protect you and give you just a limited amount of revelation that you can handle in your life. But that's even something sometimes quite difficult, you know.
You think it's difficult to handle revelation?
Yes, I mean it can be quite intense. I mean, I mean, yeah. And so it's not unwise to have a fear of God, because it's you know, because it's something holy and beyond what you can understand, and that it's not just a kind of body that you.
It's not what you said, a buddy.
Buddy or something like that.
I hope he's our buddy. Yeah, but he's way better than that. We can't trust our buddies. We can trust God.
Yeah.
I'm trying. So
I think a lot of that can be said about that, but
can be said about death, you said?
No, about all these spiritual gifts. I mean, I've written. I've tried to explain it, my understanding of it in the 7 articles that I mailed to you. Also about this gift of fear of God. I think that the prophet Samuel had was the theme of his life, the fear of God. Samuel, the prophet.
Why do you think that?
Well, because we can have a look at. Let's have a look at what I wrote there.
Oh.
I'm not at my computer, you know. I have to search on the web.
Oh, you say you're not at your computer?
Yeah, it's the computer of my son.
Okay.
That makes things a little bit difficult, but I'm just having a look at the text now. This is the church of Laodicea. They think they are so righteous, but they just get a lot of.
You said they think they're righteous?
Yeah, they think they're righteous, but God criticizes them a lot for being.
Maybe because they think they're righteous too. Like,
I mean, I think if you've got that the story about this priest Eli, I think this was the prophet before Samuel. I mean, this guy he didn't have the fear of God because his sons were living in sin, and the way he reacted there, I mean, that was just you can look up the biblical text. It's in 1 Samuel chapter 3, 9 to 7.
You said, I'm sorry, what to 7?
verse 9 to 7.
9 to 7.
Yeah.
What? 1 Samuel 3. I'm sorry. What to 7?
No, verse 9 to 7. 9 to
17.
9 to 14. Excuse me.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
That's when God called Samuel 3 times. You know.
Okay.
But Samuel, and then God says to him that Samuel, that Eli, the sin of Eli was too much because of his sin, and that Eli was taken away, the priesthood, and then because as a priest you need to have the fear of God and respect him.
You better.
And Eli, I mean, he was old, and I think he didn't take it that seriously anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I think First Samuel, that's chapter 3, that shows you, I mean, this contrast between Eli and Samuel, I mean, with the fear of God, with regard to the fear of God, because Samuel, he responds.
Yeah, he wasn't going to allow him to ever be atoned for. So yeah, that's not good.
But so that's, I mean, I think it's helpful to look at the Old Testament, also to find out what is meant with these spiritual gifts.
Right.
Especially for Solomon, where it's explicitly said that he had the gift of wisdom. So I think that makes a lot of sense to look at his texts. I mean, to see what is meant with this spirit of wisdom there, and also the prophet Daniel. I mean, the whole book of Daniel. I think it can be a great instruction for someone who thinks that he might have the gift of insight.
And then even he didn't understand everything either. So I kind of
and for him,
so he had the insight without the understanding, even though it's kind of
well, he did get a revelation of it, but just as I said, because God is infinite and his wisdom is so much greater than even if you get a revelation with an insight, it's just I think it can be too much for you to understand completely. And so that's why just write it down maybe and try to understand it later or something.
Right. Keep speaking, you know.
And sometimes he also felt sick when he got that revelation. Just look at the text in the book of Daniel when some mighty angel appeared in front of him or something like that.
Wow.
And so that this is quite intense, and I think this is it connects to the letter to the Church of Smyrna, where there's all this suffering and even death or testing and associated with it. You know, it comes quite naturally with this gift. So that's nothing that that's something that everyone should try to get, pray for, something that's getting the gift of insight, because that will can be quite intense.
Right. And people, I think the fear is probably, I think everybody needs fear of God. Like,
yeah, to a certain extent.
You care about your soul, you should fear God.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And with this fear of God, I mean, it's just then it comes just natural. It's just like someone is more talented, and if you look at psychological things about thinking, about abstract thinking, and someone is more gifted in sports or sensory stuff, and another one is more in the feeling thing, and so it's also with the spiritual gifts. I think if you've got one of those, then you can get much further if you try to live that compared to someone who doesn't have the fear and just tries to imitate the fear of God or something. then you have only some. Of course, you fear God because you have knowledge that it's infinite, but it's not part of your being. That's really from within, because maybe then you just do some stupid thing that someone with a fear of God just wouldn't do.
I feel like that's what's wrong with the churches today. Like, I don't know. I don't think they fear God, or I think they're too busy trying to teach others than seek themselves.
Yeah, to me, I mean, when I go to the church, it's always these Sunday church services. I mean, where you were supposed to sing or something like that. But this is, I always associate that with the gift of piety. That you're supposed to be pious. With the sixth church, but not everyone is like that. Okay, you can sit there and sing and try to enjoy it, but to me, I mean, it's not that I can be part of it, yes, but it's not that it's part of my natural Christianity, of my spiritual gifts that I'm seeing. I enjoy it when people have this community, and if it's from the heart, if it's not just a routine or something like that, then it can be very impressive, yeah, to be there, of course. But I always feel that I cannot contribute a lot to that my spiritual gifts, they are something else, and that's not appreciated there, because then you would need to be maybe a priest or something like that.
I suggest nobody be a priest.
Theologian, or to publish any texts there, But this is, it's so unnatural. I mean, the whole thing. I mean, not everyone is in Philadelphia. That's what I was saying to this when it's just all these church services where they are singing and so. Because for these people, it's kind of natural to do this stuff, But not, I think it's not everyone's business to do this.
It's not their business.
Yeah, it's just not how they should live their Christianity, I think. Someone just has the gift of wisdom, and someone has the gift of insight, of counsel, and of course he can also attend the church service, but he doesn't live according to a spiritual gift there, because you cannot give counsel in a church service or something like that,
I don't know. I think I like service. I just think they should be doing it. First of all, preaching the word that came out the Father's mouth or the Son's mouth, either one, because that's the bread we're supposed to be eating, is what the words they spoke. Like, yeah, you can tell the history in the Bibles too, because you can learn from other people's mistakes or what they did right, either way. But just as far as teaching this man-made gospel, I don't like that. I always feel like I need to say something, but can't really do that either. Not during service. So.
Yeah, and I mean, if you listen to this these sermons, I mean, when everything is mixed together, I mean.
And then they try to combine everything and make sense out of
Paul, and you don't believe in Paul, and it's just doesn't work, It's, doesn't fit together then.
Is it okay if I list the information you sent me on my page about the gifts?
Yeah, it's in German, but you can put it over there if you like these articles.
You said it's what? I'm sorry.
It's in German, but you can put the link over there. Sure, for sure.
Well, you sent me some stuff in English, right?
English? I don't think so.
Maybe I'll translate it first. Does the translator work good?
No, but maybe it just doesn't make sense. Maybe I should translate it to English.
Well, I don't want to put any words. It's okay. I don't want to put any work on you. I'll see what I can translate myself. I have so many emails. It's hard to find anything. I'm not good with the email. Well, all right. Was there anything else you wanted to discuss or share or testimony or anything?
No, I think it's just we've covered a lot of things now.
Okay, yeah. If you want to,
in the Book of Revelation, that's a big topic that maybe we didn't go that much into detail, except the spiritual gifts. But I think 1.5 hours that's enough. I think.
all right, yeah. If you want to, if you have anything else you want to talk about the Revelation or anything, just hit my email back up and anytime. I know you're like, what is it, 7 where you're at? Is that right?
7 hours in Europe, yeah. What are you talking about?
Oh, the time?
Yeah, the time, 7 hours.
7 o'clock, yeah. Because it's 12:04 here. Okay, well, you have a blessed night, and thank you so much.
Thank you, too, for being on your channel.
Yeah, come back. Thank you. God bless you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.